All right, good afternoon, Friday, January 18th. And I think I completely made typos. I put 19th everywhere in some of the reminders I just sent out. Welcome to,
Happens. Yeah.
welcome superstars into Burnout the Badass group where we're taking anxiety and fatigue and turning it into peak performance so you can thrive, and start feeling alive again at work and home. I
Mhm.
am sitting here with the founder of Move Things Smile, Elia Fasharan. How are you doing, Elia?
Awesome. And so glad it's Friday. I'm kind of feeling the groove of Saturday coming on and having some fun times on the motorcycle.
Right on. And I'm
Mhm.
Adam Von Enns, and I'm the co founder and the MC of our lives. And today we are talking about something very interesting. And that is the 5 things badasses know about beating burnout, well, that you don't, right?
Mhm.
And most of you are in this group because there is something in your life that just isn't where you want it to be. It could be stress from work, it could be stress at home, it could be a number of things. But the reality is, if you're sitting around asking, why are 3 out of 4 people, right, getting their asses handed to them by chronic anxiety, fatigue, depression,
Mhm.
all those, those nasty little emotional words, and, why is it that those people keep floundering with exhaustion? They keep floundering with tension. They keep floundering with overwhelm, and they keep floundering with stress management. While
Mhm.
that one guy, right, is out there, just his life is firing in all cylinders, having extreme success in just everything he does, and or she, and they're out there just kicking butt, right? And they're winning all over the place and just having success, and they're happy and they're fulfilled, And if you want to know how that person, or the top 25%, the 1 out of 4, is actually having an extraordinary life, and and how they're making that happen, then you're in the right place. That's what today's episode's all about. And we're
Yeah.
gonna get,
Go ahead.
and we're gonna get into those 5 things. Elia, you want to get started?
Yeah. So we're really tackling this topic today because it's so important to really understand how burnout works and the way it kind of creeps into your life. And so many people I know, when they talk about burnout, they talk about it like it's an end result, but they also talk about it like they didn't know they were burnt out for years. Like people come to me and they say, I realized that I've been burnt out for like the last 12 years. And, you know, they sound really shocked, and yet I totally get it because that was me too. And it's so fascinating that so many of us don't really realize how burnt out we are until we kind of get our heads above water and look back and
Right. So,
say,
right. So then
yeah,
the first thing that badasses know about beating burnout that you don't, number one, what burnout really means.
yeah. People have the definition wrong. So burnout is not an endpoint. It is a process of decay. And it happens in various stages.
Right. So the original definition of burnout came out, was it the 60s or 70s?
70s, I
It
believe.
was the 70s. And this guy was literally watching people. They would sit on the street, light a cigarette, not even smoke it, and it would just go burn all the way down. And that's where the term burnout came from, because they were so stressed out and they were so run down and just so disparate and just not hitting the goals that they wanted to, and just didn't know where to go. Like a lot of them,
Hmm.
like they knew they didn't want to be there, but they didn't know what to do. They were fatigued. They didn't have a friggin' goal in their mind, and they're like, "Who am I? What am I doing?"
Hmm.
And I think because of that, our society has always had this thing. It's like, well, burnout is, it's a result of something, right? It's something. It's when you get there and you're laying on the ground shaking. Oh, that guy must be burned out, right? But what it really means, as Ellie said, it's that process, right? It's a slow decay. It's cortisol is in your system every day over a long period of time, and causing a lot of emotional issues and causing a lot of, physical issues as well. So most people don't realize that burnout, and that's why the stats are coming out that 75% of the people working over 40 hours a week, at least in North America, and I'm going to bet in almost all first world countries, are suffering burnout. And it's proven because, Elias, like you say, 80% of doctors' visits are related to what?
Stress.
Stress.
Stress-inducing physical ailments and sickness.
Right.
Yeah.
So stress, but there's a difference between stress and burnout, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
So the difference really is that stress is more short term, but burnout is chronic levels of high stress over a long period of time. So think like months and years versus just having like a bad day or a bad week. Chronic levels of stress over a long period of time, that leads to burnout.
Right. So the definition of burnout, the first thing badasses know is they understand that burnout is not an endpoint, that it's a process of decay, and so they're on the lookout. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They're on the lookout for signs that could possibly indicate different levels of burnout because there's many intricate, levels, right, Elia?
Yeah, there are. And, we're going to run through some of the things that people might be experiencing. These are going to be, signs that, people who have really conquered burnout, they keep their eyes open for this because they know if they start to see this in their lives that they need to make a change. They need to really address what's going on. So one thing that we hear a lot of and see a lot of is people start to lose faith in their work relationships and their abilities to really be able to make a difference in them. So, they have a business or they work for someone and just the tension within the team becomes really high and really intense. And these are people who have a drive to be, they're peacemakers. They want to see people be able to, come together and really make a difference. And they're unable to do it. So they're losing faith.
Right. And so, I always get kind of like choked up when Ellie starts talking about losing faith because that's something I definitely experienced. And, our burnout period, lasted more than 5 years. And then if you throw in the recovery time, you're talking about 8 years. Like it was a long, long period. And I know in year number 1 of burnout, if I would have known this, my hopelessness, right, or lack of faith, right, that was an indication right there. That was an indication. And I did not realize that that was an indicator of burnout. And we just kept going. We just kept going through, just, waiting for things to change, hoping things would get better, just thinking, well, if we had more customers or if we had more income coming in, or if the kids made better grades in high school, or, we were just waiting for all these things to just get better and things would change in different areas, but nothing ever took care of the chronic stress that we were feeling, or otherwise known as burnout.
Yeah, and when you don't take care of chronic stress, when you don't address it, it will build up into forms of physical illness, such as depression and anxiety, which are physical illness, but they're also mental illness as well. And, I think a lot of people really struggle with the idea of mental illness. There's a lot of stigma around it, which really makes no sense to me because, mental illness is kind of just like having the flu or having, there's a lot of varying levels of mental illness, but in general, it's just an illness of the brain, like an illness is of the body. And, it's really important to understand, like Adam said in the beginning, stress, kind of creates all sorts of wonkiness in our bodies, and we're chemical factories. So stress really changes the chemicals that are going on in our bodies. And so that, also leads to that anxiety and those physical illnesses. And so, those are really important things to start noticing. Another thing is really losing touch with your own creative expression, and everything just feels dull, or you might even be completely numb. Like you just feel like you're separated from your life, like you're kind of watching yourself go through your life. And there's a sense that you're just really not living. You're not really there. You're not really present. You're just kind of.
And Elia, you're what Elia's talking about right now. She's talking about on the more extreme end. What we're really trying to do is we're trying to give you early warning signs, right? And if you're heading down that path, if you don't do something about it, you're going to end up in a pile of shit. Trust me. and it blows 100%. You do not want to be there. So that's why we've made it our mission to get on air and do these lives with you guys so you can help identify and then find a way to fix the things that are out there. So what badasses really knows, they know what burnout really means.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, and they understand, again, we're talking about this process of decay. So one of those things, a process of decay, is losing faith. One of the processes of decay is losing touch. Another thing might be that you take on a job or a client or a partner that you just know isn't right, but again, you're just going through the motions, and for various reasons, you are making that more important than how you feel about it or your own opinion. So again, you're making decisions that you know are not really great for you, but you feel like for whatever outside pressure, it's a decision that you must make.
Right.
This is another one of those points, one of those warning signs. And like I was talking about before, these relationships start to get really, really tense. So things like office or working politics in your business become so bad that, you're just tired of playing the game to survive within that environment. And now you just feel done. So again, that degradation of relationships, that is a process of decay, and it'll keep decaying until you are just done. And you may walk away, you may get fired, you may shut down the business that you work so hard to build because you can't seem to make the relationships within the business work. You may find yourself, in the doctor's office ill. So again, these are your signs of the process of decay. Now, there's one more here I want to talk about, which is you're doing the job of 3. You're working harder and harder, but you're not seeing the rewards of that work. And Adam, we hear this a lot, right? It's just like, I'm not seeing the rewards. Right. And we as humans, we need to see the rewards. We need to see things. And it doesn't necessarily mean money. If you look at a lot of the studies on human resources, they all say the biggest thing that people really want is to feel appreciated, to feel seen and heard and appreciated. And if they do that, they will many times work for not a lot of money, but they feel like they have a purpose there, right? Yes. And that appreciation is their reward. So you must see that at some point.
So the rule here is a badass, the minute that they see that the job that they're in or an activity that they're in, usually a career, has turned out to be more stressful and less rewarding than they planned it to be, they do something to fix it now. They don't wait. They do something to fix it now because they understand what burnout really means and how it affects them even at the smallest level.
Yeah, and they don't let social norms bully them by just waiting until again, like I was saying, an illness hits or you get fired or you're resigning or you're shutting down a business. They know themselves really well and they respect their gut instincts.
Right.
And they take action because they realize, okay,
well,
I can see where this is headed.
Right. So that leads us into number 2. Mm-hmm. Badasses know that burnout is not normal.
Yep.
Right? So think about it. The status quo in America, and if you think America is bad, you need to go to China, go to Beijing. When I was there last year, almost a year and a half ago, the rate, the normal rate of those people work is absolutely, it's insane. In Beijing, I cannot tell you the number of times, if you gave a Beijingian, a Chinese person in Beijing, living in Beijing, more than 90 seconds with nothing to do, they would fall asleep standing up. And I'm not kidding. Waiting in lines for the train, waiting in line for taxis, they would just, because their status quo is just working and working and working in a culture that is well known for having some of the healthiest people on the planet and the longest lifespans. In fact, there's a province, Yucatan, over in that area where people are living to 120, 130, 140. I met some. Yeah. It's nuts.
Yeah.
But they're starting to ruin that. And here in America, it's become status quo. So when you ask somebody, hey, how you doing? What do they say? I'm busy. Mm-hmm. I'm slammed. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
That's become normal. And badasses know that burnout is not normal.
Normal.
It's
Yeah.
not status quo, even though it has become a habit. And that's just become the way our culture is. That's not normal. And they refuse to live like that. Right, Elia?
Yeah. And I mean, being available 24/7 to your work is not normal. It's not good. It's not good for you. And, that kind of leads you to be in this space. For a lot of people, they're on autopilot. And again, like I mentioned, this feeling of numbness, but autopilot is just, it's like, God, you know that you're just missing something major in your life, but you can't put your finger on it. And, life is feeling dull. And it's not till someone starts asking you some pretty deep questions that you start to realize, like, I am not happy. And you feel like that your soul has actually begun to retreat, like it's leaving you, right? You kind of feel soulless.
Yep.
You just again, going back to, you just kind of have less and less faith that what you're doing is actually working, that your purpose is actually important, that you're having an effect, you're having an impact. And you can feel like you've reached a sell-by date, to where you're just like, if I don't change something, like, I'm going to be expired here pretty soon.
No. I think what's more important is that so many people, like you said, are waking up each morning on autopilot. Mm-hmm. Like, their life isn't horrible.
Yeah.
A lot of times their life isn't horrible, but they're bored out of their freaking minds. They're not fulfilled.
Yeah.
Right? And then when they talk about changing careers or something, all the crabs in the bucket around them is like, why do you want to do that? You have such a great career. You have such a great job. How are you going to make money? Mm-hmm. All those stupid questions that just throw doubt. So the doubting Thomas comes up in your head and you're just like, well, maybe I should just stay here on autopilot and just, I don't know, have a blasé life and be the status quo. Screw that. A badass knows that is not normal, and a badass knows they want a different life. A badass wants to have a cool, fun, exciting life with energy, not living on autopilot, right? And then there's the extreme version, which is what Ellie is talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's really that belief. You have a confidence that, again, no matter what, you're going to land on your feet. That, the slow death of being in a career or an environment that's not serving you is it's just, like Adam says, it's not okay, right? But you are able to silence the doubting Thomas because you have the confidence to say, I'm going to leave this, and if I fall, I'm going to get right back up. I'm going to find where I need to be. I'm going to find that place where I can feel alive and fulfilled again. And I'm also going to work on me and my mindset. So, of course, I don't leave one scenario to create the exact same other scenario. So you've got to be really, really clear on your objectives, what it is that you really want to get. And this can be tough when you're burnt out because you've got foggy thinking and your brain is kind of scrambled. And again, that kind of leads you to being on this like hamster wheel of stress and burnout because you're like, okay, I need to figure out where I need to go and what I need to do, but I can't think clearly, right? And so badasses know that they don't have to sign up for the status quo, and they don't blame or judge, other people about it. They just simply know that nothing is more important than the longevity of their health and their happiness. That is the most important thing that they can do to really change the trajectory of their life.
Exactly. Badasses know burnout is not normal. And Ellie and I lived for 5 years going, well, I guess this is what it means to be an entrepreneur and a business owner. That's just how things go. And
this is adulting.
Yeah, and while that happened, health went down. Ellie's got her story. I remember watching her in the back office. She was standing up, and all of a sudden she went, doop, face first on the concrete floor, cracked her head open, bleeding. I was like, what the hell happened? I thought she tripped. No, she completely passed out from anxiety. Completely passed out from being burnt out, from cortisol swimming too long. And that is definitely not what we want for you. So Are we ready to move on to number 3?
Yep, let's go to number 3.
Okay. The third thing badasses know is burnout is a mix of crap. It is different for everyone. And what do we mean by that? Burnout, it's got anxiety. there's fatigue, there's overwhelm, there's indecision, there's lack of confidence, lack of productivity, there's exhaustion, anger, pissed offness, resentment, guilt, regret. It's a mixture of a bunch of crap, and it's different for everyone. So just because Elia felt, a lot of anxiety, right? That was your big one.
Yep.
I had a lot of anger. She had a lot of sleeping issues. I had some sleeping issues too. But what I would do is I would grab my cup of pain relief at night, to one, numb me out so I could just stop thinking, and then basically pass out, to not get very restful sleep, even though I was sleeping. Right. So the badasses know that burnout is different from everyone. And just because this person over here has got anxiety and is burning out, and because they don't have anxiety, I'm not burning out. Well, yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. You've just got different symptoms. The symptoms are different.
And this is again where, people experience it, like Adam said, differently mentally and physically. But when you start to look at burnout, or if someone mentions it to you, or you keep feeling or saying to yourself, I'm done, you start to realize that you're really resonating with the word. When someone says it to you, you're like, oh my gosh, I think that's what I've been feeling. Which is often a relief for people.
Right.
Because
or how did I get here?
Yeah, how did I get here? And it's a relief because they're like, oh, I'm not, I'm not doomed to depression forever, or doomed to anxiety forever, or all of this different illnesses forever. It's my stress levels. And suddenly they start to feel like they can, now that they have a name for it, they know what to start doing to fix it. And so here are some things that people might struggle with. So digestion, IBS symptoms, always made worse with stress and burnout. You might want to ask yourself too, really take a look at, has your energy, your dedication, your productivity, how much has it changed in the last 2 years? Because again, you've heard us say a lot of times that burnout is really a progression. Mm-hmm. It happens over a long period of time. And so you can't just say, let me look at the last 2 weeks and see if I'm burnt out. You have to really take a look at a longer span, 2 years or more, and just take a look at yourself and see, where were you before compared to where you are now? And you're going to notice, if you're burning out, a drastic change.
Yes. And so mental and physical fatigue, right? Mm-hmm. That's it, and it's kind of a vicious cycle. It's weird. It's like, and we like to focus on anxiety and fatigue because they're the two most common. But anxiety, and because they usually lead to the other stuff, right? Yeah. You worry about stuff, and then you get frustrated because things aren't happening. And then you get anger, resentment, and guilt in there. And then, overwhelm. It's like, I just don't know what to do. That's, it's worry, it's anxiety. So that's anxiety is kind of like the umbrella word for all that stuff. And fatigue is kind of like the umbrella word for all the physical symptoms, which include the stomach problems. And that's what Elia dealt with. I had weight gain. I burned out 3 times in my life. Didn't even know it. The second time I actually got up to 245 pounds. Just was pounding my face with just junk.
Eating for 4.
Yeah. Well, eating for a lot of it. I just couldn't that second and a half of tasting something was like, yum, yeah. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I'm freaking out again. And then you would just keep eating just to cope with it. And it just doesn't work. You've got the weight gain. Like for one of our clients, Aileen, she had loss of appetite, right? And you did too. You actually had loss of appetite. Like you lost like almost 15% of your body weight, 20% of your body weight. It was freaking scary. Like we couldn't even keep a belt on her.
Yeah, nothing looked appetizing. And so I just felt nauseous all the time. And, sometimes I laugh at these symptoms, not because they're funny, but because when I look back, it's just like, I laugh because why did I think that was just normal? Why did I think that was okay? Why did I put up with that for so long? Why didn't I look to see what was going on? And again, this is something that you may be asking yourself too, is like, ask yourself how comfortable you've gotten with just the high levels of stress in your life. And, one thing too I experienced, and a lot of times it's the littlest things that are going to get your attention before the big things really hit, And for me, one thing I really struggled with was just simply going to the grocery store. Now, this might seem really strange, but I felt totally overwhelmed and anxious when I went into a grocery store. Just all the people, all the lights, all the choices, all the things that I had to do. And I remember there's one point when I actually had to just, I left my cart and I just walked out because I couldn't handle the stimulation. I was so overstimulated and so stressed. And I actually, as I've shared this story, I hear this from other people too. They're like, yeah, I couldn't handle grocery stores either. Now that might seem so weird to you, but I'm telling you, little things like this start to catch your attention in a big way, because there's nothing more demoralizing than being like, I can't even go to the grocery store. I
Right.
can't even drive my car
Right.
because I
Right.
feel really dizzy when I get in it.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. So a couple other, the fatigue. So you had dizziness and nausea. I had
Mm-hmm.
headaches. Right. I know some people that have headaches that get so bad from stress and overwhelm that they can't. Their vision goes blurry. Like they have trouble driving a car.
Mm-hmm.
That's not. That's super scary. We've got some clients of ours who actually ended up in the hospital with chest pains. Super healthy, fit people because of
Yeah.
panic attacks.
Yeah.
And Ellie is physical symptoms got so bad that the doctors were testing her for really, really scary things. And I was terrified.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know she was terrified, but I was terrified. Parkinson's, MS, all these just neurological disorders. And they all came back negative. Thank God.
Mm-hmm.
But it was all burnout related. It was
Yeah.
all because of the burnout. And so guys, the number 3 thing that badasses know is that burnout is a mix of crap and it has a different recipe for every person that experiences it. And so just because that person, you cannot compare yourself to somebody else.
Yeah.
Sitting around at, 275 pounds and looking at the person who's 300 pounds going, oh, well, I'm not that much. I'm not that heavy. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. You've got
Badasses,
burnout.
yeah, badasses, they listen to their bodies. They notice what's happening in their brains,
Yes.
and they know how powerful a change in direction or mindset is. So they take care of themselves so that they can serve others, not the other way around.
Yeah.
So a badass really understands their own bodies and doesn't compare it to other people. It's really asking myself, am I happy? Am I energetic? Do I feel good?
And basically, if you're having a physical symptom or something's going on with your body, like you wake up in the morning and you go down the stairs and you're having trouble walking because you're just like so sore and tense, but you didn't really work out yesterday or the day before, right? And it's like,
Hmm.
why is that? Because you've got some burnout going on in here. You got some burnout brewing. So badasses pay attention to the physical signs. They pay attention to the mental signs, and they know that they cannot compare themselves to anybody else.
Yep. So let's move on to number 4.
Number
This
4.
one is a big one for me. And so I'm going to start this one, which is not something to be ashamed of. Burnout is not something to be ashamed of. Now, I know that I made burnout mean all kinds of crazy things. Like that I wasn't doing a good job, I was a bad business owner, maybe that meant I didn't like my customers, or I didn't know how to do a good job, or I was incompetent, or incapable. I made all this stuff up about what burnout meant because I didn't want to admit I was burnt out. And so it's really important, especially those of you in like caregiving careers, even like life coaches, nurses, doctors, lawyers as well, where you're really in it with people in intense experiences. You, of all people, are subject to feeling shame about burnout. And you've got to remember this is not a reflection of your worth or your skill. Now, the other thing is really understanding and allowing yourself to say no to being available 24/7. I hear from a lot of people as well as like, oh, my boss, or maybe even you are writing emails in the middle of the night and you're sending them and wondering why no one else is doing something about them at 5 o'clock in the morning and why aren't they up and responding and, all of these kind of things. So, again, not being ashamed that you're not going to make yourself available 24/7. That doesn't mean that you're not dedicated to your job if you give yourself some boundaries.
It's I don't know if I was shame of it. I just was ignoring it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was just ignoring. I'm like, no, I'm a tough guy.
Yeah.
I'm a tough
Yeah.
guy. I can make this happen. I'm driven. I'm passionate. I'm focused. Well, actually, I wasn't passionate. I completely lost all my passion. I hated what I was doing. But I was determined to power through. And I think, well, I guess it was, if you think about it, there was a lot of shame because I was ashamed of failing.
Yeah.
I was ashamed.
Mm-hmm.
Like I put so much energy into this and it's just like, and I couldn't just go, hey, this isn't working, learn from it and go on and do something that you're really going to be better at. Take this as a
Mm-hmm.
kick-ass educational experience and move on to something that's going to work better for you, which is what we've done.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, there was a lot of shame in that. And it's very, very powerful when, you keep doing something that's literally sucking your life away because you're embarrassed.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I see this so much, like I said, with passionate, driven people, especially, those that really kind of they have a change the world mentality. They have a steely determination to just
Mm-hmm.
make things happen. They want to be the heroes in their businesses and in their, the people that they work with. They really have a passion to change things for the better. They want to help those that are in need. They want to help the whole system, right? But deep down, it's killing them and they're losing hope. And yeah, and that feels like a beat down that they don't want to accept,
Right.
and there's another way to do it. Of course, there's another way to make that happen. But right now it's like they just don't have the skills to really be able to hone their passion in a way that they can really wield it in the most powerful way.
Exactly. Exactly. And number 5, the last thing that badasses know is
Oh yeah. Oh wait, I forgot to say in number 4, badasses know that the power of vulnerability and honesty, and that burnout doesn't make them less than. It actually is a wake up call that they need to get stronger and they need to get help. So that's what badasses know in number 4. All right, we're moving on to 5.
Are you
Adam, go
ready?
ahead. Yeah.
Okay. You sure?
Yep.
Final answer. Here we go. All right, number 5. The fifth thing that badasses know about beating burnout that you don't is that dealing with fear is your number one responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Dealing with fear of judgment, especially, is your number one responsibility. And we kind of talked about this in last week's live where we said, you've got to hold your feet to the fire and take 100% accountability and get honest where your life is right now. And it really is. It's like when fear is a very powerful drug.
And so
And I
is
call
judgment.
yeah, well, yeah,
Fear
they
of
all are.
judgment.
And
Yeah.
but fear,
Mm-hmm.
fear of whatever it is that you're afraid of, whatever's called. When you have anxiety, you're scared of something, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
worried of making the wrong decision, so you don't make any decision. You're
Yep.
worried that just fear, and I call it a powerful drug because I'm a firm believer that our bodies are not machines; that they're chemical factories. So much modern health science has come out that proves that your brain produces the chemicals and that really nasty chemicals are produced by fear and anxiety and fatigue, and really badass chemicals are produced by joy and love and happiness and success and fulfillment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you're scared, your ego, right? That thing up there that kind of gives you your personality and the old Freudian stuff, but its job is to tell you that you're special and that you're a separate person and that it's not your fault, and to blame other people or to blame the shitty boss you have or to blame your partner, right? Or to blame the kids or to blame, I don't know, the guy that cut you off in traffic, or to blame whatever it is you want to blame. And so many people sit around blaming, and then they're hoping, wishing, and waiting things would just get better. Like if I only had a better boss, if I only had a better job, if I only had a better girlfriend or a better wife or a better husband, things would just be gravy. And that's not true. Things don't ever get better.
Yeah, the fear, like I said, the fear of judgment is a big one, as well as just people have this fear of like, what if I change who I am? Will I be letting people down? What are people going to think of me? Will they think less of me? Will they think I'm crazy or talk about me behind my back? Will they say I wasn't cut out for this if I decide to change my career or move on? Or will they say I'm lazy or not committed? I mean, we worry so much about the judgment of other people, what they're going to think about us. And the crazy thing is, we can't control what other people are going to think about us. And so, but we spend so much time wrapped up in this. And I see this a lot, that it keeps people from making that big step to get out of burnout, to change the situation that they're in or change their thinking, is they're worried about the judgment of other people. And that's a very inherent need. We have a very inherent need to be a part of a tribe, and we worry about being kicked out of a tribe, right? But there are so many other tribes you can join. There are so many other tribes to be a part of. And, it's really about just allowing yourself to let your priorities change and to realize that burnout is actually that opportunity, and finding, saying no to the fear. And of course, it's more complex than that. It takes work, it takes practice, but these are big, big components of it.
Right. But the badasses know that there's 3 parts to it. I mean,
Yeah.
there's big components, but it's simple. Number 1, you've got to get honest with the state of your life right now. Right. You have to look at it, and using the warning signs that we talked about, 1, 2, 3, and 4, you've got to get honest with where your things are at right now.
Yeah.
Number 2, you've got to take 100% responsibility for what's going on in your life. And number 3, you've got to be 100% accountable for the things that happen to you. You see, Ellie and I don't choose the things that happen to us, but we do choose how we respond. And we do choose to now pay attention to the signs and get honest where we are. And the minute that we aren't where we want to be, we fix it. We don't loiter. We don't hang out on the curb, just wondering if the taxi of life is going to come by and sweep us up and take us to the mall of yumminess and happiness, right? No, it's not. That's not how it works. You gotta get there, right? So,
yeah, and you've got to let go of the worry and the worry of the fear and the judgment that that you need to make this change in your life. And someone said to me the other day, and I thought it was just the most amazing thing and so true. And that is, you can gauge how successful you're going to be based on how many uncomfortable conversations you are willing to have.
Yeah.
And this is one thing we really hammer on in this group, is really being willing to talk about what's not working in your life, because that's the only way you're going to start to find success. Because if you just keep trying to shove it under the rug, it is going to take you down. It is going to take you down.
Yeah, and when Ellie says, be willing to have uncomfortable conversations, and sometimes it's with yourself.
Yeah, a lot of times it's with yourself.
Sometimes it's with yourself. That's like number one. Badass is like, get honest. Get honest with where your things are now. And the most successful people, the most badass people on the planet, are able and willing to have very uncomfortable conversations with themselves every day. They say, okay, okay, that's kind of scary. It's not what I want. How do I fix it? How do I fix it now? They do not wait.
Yeah.
They do not wait. And the last thing, and I've got a bonus here. Oh,
all right.
Yeah. There's a bonus badass things. What badasses know is that they can't do it alone.
Yeah.
And guys, if you want a killer life, if you want an extraordinary life, trying to do it alone is crazy. Trying to tackle anything difficult alone is crazy. And to have amazing things happen to you, you can't do it alone. Like, I mean, Ellie and I, we've got each other, but we also have a network of mentors and coaches and friends and stuff. And like, we didn't get here we made this happen. But we have a support team. Yep. Right?
Yep. And I spent many years trying to do it alone, and that got me right into the worst part of burnout. So yeah, you've got to have a tribe. You've got to have a support team. The best of the best have them. And there's a reason for that.
Yeah. Top peak performers, athletes, executives, business owners, they all have a network and a support crew to help them get them to the finish line of whatever that means for them. Happiness, happiness, success, and fulfillment. You just call it fulfillment and happiness, right? That's what everybody wants. They just want to have a good impact on the planet. They want to know that, the economies of scale, that they're putting in effort and they're getting out blank, right? They're getting out the reward that they're looking for.
Yeah.
So you can't do it alone. So guys, if you're out there, you're burning out, and if anything we said today resonated with you, we want to invite you to come over to movethinksmile.com/talk and book a call with us. Elliot, tell them about it.
Yeah, so what we will do is we'll hop on the phone for about 45 minutes and we'll just really ask you a lot of powerful questions to help you, conquer a lot of, the 5 things we just talked about here, really having a little bit of an uncomfortable conversation, but that's what's going to get you the success, and really figuring out what is it that's really burning you out. Because again, it's not what you think it is. Okay. When you're in burnout, I've been there, you think it's all these different things, but it's not until you have space from the issue that you can look back and really see what it was. And, we just want to give you an opportunity to turn your suffering into greatness, to turn your pain into a launching pad for success. Because like I said, burnout has some really dark, painful areas.
Oh, it sucks.
And I know them well.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, and I don't want you to waste your pain, and that might sound really strange, but you want to use your pain as fuel to move you forward. Otherwise, it just feels like a rock that holds you down.
And guys, don't sit around thinking I'll take care of this tomorrow or next week or next month, because what it ends up being is next year or 5 years later. And then shit has hit the fan and you've either gotten divorced, lost your business, lost your kids, not lost your kids, but didn't have the impact on them. And now you're just like, oh, I'm a shitty parent because I wasn't there for them, even though they were in my house, right? Don't wait. Get help. Get out of where you are. It can happen quickly. The reason it's not working for you is because stress management and coping does not work. It just masks the problem and makes things work. And so come over to movethinksmile.com/talk. Like Elliot said, it's about a 45-minute call. And what we're going to do is we're going to get you crystal clear on 3 things. Number 1, what exactly is burning you out? Because a lot of people don't know. Like I said, the first thing that badasses know is what burnout really means. Number 2, exactly what your inner badass would rather be doing than sitting there swimming in a pool of cortisol, right?
Yep.
And number 3, the exact strategy for you to feel alive again, so you can start kicking ass at home and work. And like I said, conquering this stuff alone is crazy. A big change in your life does not happen by itself. Period.
Yep.
And if you'd like expert guidance, come on over. You'll speak to Elia or myself. movethinksmile.com/talk. Elia, you got any parting shots?
No, I mean, we are here for you. And I think, like we said before, if there's something that we said in this live that really stood out to you, put it in the comments below, because, someone who's in this group may only have a second to sort of scroll through what's going on in the group, and something that you've written might really, really help them and change their day. So make some comments. If you have questions about anything we've said, you can post that there too. We'll get right back to you. And in the meantime, we will see you next week. We'll post a welcome post for the week and let you know when we're going to be back on live.
All right, guys. See you in a few days.
All right. Take care.